Okay, so we might not be able to fill a whole like 250 square foot bedroom with sand, but how do we still get sand up there
We
somehow?
still get
You
the plants right
know?
there.
All right, my man. Tell us who you are.
All right, so my name is Matthew Dancy. I am a creative director of Art by Somebody. I'm also a visual artist, and I express myself in various mediums. But I'm also a corporate professional, so I also have a full daytime job that I'm able to, operate within the confines of. But thankfully, I'm able to express myself, in this creative way. That's here today with you, able to showcase this home and this artwork and this body of work that we're excited to show.
So to introduce myself, I'm Dylan Green. I'm a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur, creative, business individual. I've been around a lot of different kinds of industries, generally coming from a creative approach, whether it's in the form of consulting or doing brand and design work. Originally from the Pacific Northwest, and made my way down the coast and then over to Dallas, Texas about 3 years ago. And since I got to Dallas, I've had this really fascinating transition into real estate. Real estate has been the strangest canvas I think I've applied myself to, so to speak. It's definitely a place where creativity exists. Maybe you have to look through it a little bit of a more murky lens and able to find in order to find it. So that's where I found myself is looking at real estate and thinking, how can we make this more of a creative experience? How can we make this more of just an experience in general for folks when they're making the largest purchase of their life?
For sure.
And I think that is a good segue for why we're here. Whenever I walk into these incredible properties that I'm fortunate enough to represent, I'm always thinking, how can we make how can we make people really believe that this is a home for them?
But
and I just thought that there might be some ways that we can showcase the properties in a little bit more of a unique manner.
yeah, no, I think just to kind of jump in from there, like I think where I've always kind of seen that a lot of people want art, just from my own point of view, a lot of people want art that reflects their point of view, reflects what they like, reflects what they want to see. And a lot of times homes can reflect that as well too. That can be the backdrop, trying to step into a home that kind of reflects their character, the culture, and just kind of like the values that they have. You myself saw an opportunity to try to like have artwork to be coupled with that. This is something that is also unique to just our generation, and then just the recognizing that we like to be entertained. I think that's just the reality that we've also just shifted. We naturally we like the aesthetics of things, but we also like the experience to that as well too. When we're going to these places, when we're going to make these purchases and these investments, thinking about how can we make this different.
Yeah.
How can this be a breath of fresh air now for people?
Well, and one of the things I've seen too in real estate is that when people do decide to buy a place, a lot of times it's coming from this sense of inspiration that they feel. And it can come from seeing a certain faucet that really just catches their eye.
Yeah.
Or it can come from the layout of the master bedroom. It can come from a lot of different things, but people are looking for that sense of inspiration. And I think that what drew me to you and what you do in your artwork is it's very inspiring. Whether you're directly interacting with the art and understanding it, or even just feeling what the colors portray. I think there's this whole spectrum of inspiration. So my idea was, why not bring that into the home to inspire people in a twofold manner? It's both, we're showcasing the real estate, but then we're also showcasing art, and that feeling of inspiration can draw you toward the art or can draw you toward the home. It can do both. It can do neither. But I think that it's probably going to be somewhere toward the space of both.
I think art should be inspirational.
Yeah.
I think it should spark conversation. I think it should spark emotion and all those different feelings, because that's where it kind of has allowed for me to be a vessel in that way.
Sure.
Kind of like similar to all these pieces, even just these specifically that we see here, part of a collection that I've used to document my life, and kind of document just where I'm at currently and the pivot that I'm trying to make in my career. That's why these pieces, they're two-dimensional, but just kind of what we see over to your back shoulder is more like a physical rendition, bringing that art into life.
Yeah.
And almost like this is art saying I am somebody, but I can kind of see my own reflection in it. But it's also for anyone else in the audience to see themselves as well too, that they're
Sure.
somebody, that they have a message, they have a purpose.
I love it. So tell me a little bit then about that series and the overall narrative, from everything from what sparked it to like where it's at now.
For sure. So I think for me, it started out in the 2020, honestly, where a lot of people were kind of met with the reality of what was security and what is security, and kind of having to go within themselves to try to figure out what that looks like. For me, I've always been creative and always had that passion, but I was always working in the corporate field. And I was like, how can I somehow get an opportunity to do this full time and to do this what I truly feel like I'm gifted at doing? So like I honestly just went back to school and just kind of started going down that rabbit hole. And as I was doing that, I was painting. So I was kind of like painting what I was feeling at that
Sure.
time, and just like just being quite frank, I was like, how can I get to this field? So I'm like, if I start to create this body of work, it's going to communicate exactly what I want to say to people. So that's kind of where it started at. And as I kind of went through the process of creating it, I read this book that was from one of my favorite authors, Robert Neal, and it was about just the human laws of nature and just what do we all as individuals, just humans, experience. And just kind of looking at just this generation of us as adults and millennials, a lot of us have recognized that just a regular 9 to 5 is not going to cut it.
Sure.
One stream of income is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we have all kind of done our due diligence to try to find what that is. And I'm like, I'm no different. It's just me expressing it in my creative way that, hey, I'm also within this generation and recognizing that, hey, I see the need, but also too the desire to want to express myself differently and pursue things like that. And it's through art. So that was just kind of what I would say I was documenting the entire time, and how these pieces all kind of reflect a lot of the same emotions everybody else feels.
Certainly.
And that's kind of where you kind of see it today.
You know, you're not a one-trick pony when it comes to art. We have a canvas piece here, and we have a literal steel barrel over here.
Correct.
Talk to me about how you choose, because this is expression. You're communicating something. Talk to me about how you choose your mediums.
Great question. I think that's something that I also try to tell people, that I'm a work in progress and that I'm a continuing experiment. So I continue like to try and like grab different physical things. And honestly, it comes from, I'm a big movie buff.
Okay.
So so honestly, the Barrels of Somebody's Secret Stuff, it is a ode to Space Jam. I played basketball growing up.
Yeah.
I'm an athlete at heart. So it's just some of those things naturally draw me to it. Also, I kind of just, that competitive nature bleeds sometimes into artwork and bleeds into just how I show up. I think that also helps me identify what the subject matter is I want to talk about.
Sure.
Which leads me to what it is, the medium I'm going to speak on. So kind of like I would maybe start with the canvas and maybe start with the story, but then that storyline might lead me to a physical object. Then it might lead me actually to a film that I might want to tell that story visually, because I think sometimes I might be able to communicate it in an aesthetic way, but I might want that narrative of what I'm trying to say aesthetic to still be out there in the world.
Sure.
And I might just try to find other mediums to get it out.
I think that there's maybe a spectrum, but if there's two types of artists, I oftentimes see the ones who do limit themselves because they're like, I believe this is my medium, this is where I work, this is my style. And I think that it's fascinating because the space between 0 and 1 is infinity, right? So it's like, even if you limit yourself, there's a lot you can do there. But the other side of the spectrum, which is where I believe I see you, is it's less about it sounds like you're less about creating a boundary around yourself and where you express your soul in your art. And it's more of what can I see, feel, hear, touch, smell, whatever, that is going to be the most honest version of what I'm trying to say here.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's fascinating.
I've never heard somebody articulate it that way, but yeah, no, I think that hits the nail on the head.
Well, to give this conversation a little bit more specificity, you know, I just want to talk about like what we're really, really doing here, and what I'm so excited about, and you know, the relationship that has come up here, and just to give that, the what, a little bit more context.
Yeah.
We're literally sitting in a home that I have listed for sale. It's in Dallas, Texas, more specifically in Lower Greenville. And I was hanging out here doing an open house, and your boy came through, your Play, who is your guy that you work closely with to communicate and get your art out to people. Him and I hit it off right away, and it was literally later that evening that all three of us got together at the Faded Mike's Gemini, one of my favorite bars. I've heard a lot of ideas from people. Ideas aren't worth anything if you don't make them happen, though. And we had a conversation that night, and you and I were talking about the idea the next day. And that idea was to utilize the real estate that I represent, these beautiful properties, as a canvas, and the strokes upon the canvas would be your art and your story and your narrative. So we're quite literally going to be using these properties as a place that we can showcase your art, to bring people in, to inspire them to both experience art and real estate simultaneously. Again, I think that it's hat off to you to really fuel that idea with action, because like I said, I hear ideas all the time. It simply doesn't matter to me unless everyone involved is willing to contribute their energy and their action.
Absolutely.
So I'm super stoked to be here, man. I'm super stoked to make this happen. Our first property, our first event, is going to be September 20th, 2024, 4 to 7 p.m. We're going to be at 1902 North Carroll Avenue. We're going to be featuring a whole body of your artwork. We're going to have music, we're going to have drinks, we're going to have socializing. It's going to be the best way to cap off the summer.
Yes, absolutely.
And then that event will be followed up by two more properties, which will be announced as a way to continue the story of your body of work, but also as a way for us to be creative with how do we use the space, again, with your art as the brush strokes on that canvas.
Absolutely. I think one word I just kind of want to circle back, that even just is the conception of how this started, is organic. I think that is even with Play and how he played a part, which was, I'm so appreciative of, him just kind of seeing the opportunity, and then, hey, I think you need to meet Dylan. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go meet Dylan. And then we're gonna have a conversation, and then we're here today.
Yes, sir.
I think that's all through just being organic and us seeing and bringing to the table our best and what we all want to see.
For sure, man.
So that's for one. Hats off to everybody involved. Because it takes multiple people to bring this to come. But just to bring everything to the head, like we're one of the properties we'll be showcase, which I'm super excited about. First case, we'll be doing the townhome starting next weekend, that we're super excited to be able to showcase the work. I'll have some new pieces on view. It is a continuation of what you guys have, recently seen, and more pieces to be seen as well. I have some other merchandise items that'll be available for you to purchase. But more importantly, it's for you to see the property, see the space that, you guys are viewing, that the backdrop of this artwork is really being viewed on by the graces of you guys.
Like you mentioned, the first property is going to be a whole community of townhomes with a beautiful community pool and like lounge area, which is all going to be built out and finished by next Friday. Knock on wood. Brand spanking new. The next property, we have luxury duplexes. This one is a luxury single family home. One of the things that I think I've enjoyed the most is getting to interact with you and collaborate with you, of like, okay, so we have this space. How do we use this space with your art? And how do the two come together to create that sense of inspiration, but also to communicate the narrative of your body of work?
For sure.
And to me, like, as someone who's worked in design, I look at these sorts of things as like these super fun design challenges. Right.
Absolutely.
It's like we were just talking about like the turf and the sand, like in the upstairs rooms. It's like, okay, so we might not be able to fill a whole like 250 square foot bedroom with sand, but how do we still get sand up there somehow?
How do we still get the concept off? How do we still execute them? And that's the beauty of, throwing some stuff at the wall, seeing if it sticks.
Hell yeah, brother.
So,
all right, man. Well, so appreciate you having here. I can't wait to have people in the space with us, which will be very soon. September 20th, 2024, 4 to 7 p.m. at 1902 North Carroll Avenue. We'll kick it off there, and we'll have 2 events to follow.
Yes.
Thanks, my dog.
All right. Let's get it.
Okay, now we get to do the fun stuff.
That was good.
I think it's fire.
That was good. I will say this.